4 o'clock or just after, so welcome to the show. We got a great show for you. We're going to start at the beginning, at the top. We got some Arkansas news to get to. An Arkansas law that required the 10 Commandments be posted in school. We got an Obama appointee judge saying that you can't do that. That's going to be appealed. Also going to follow up on the Aaron Spencer case, the Arkansan man who saved his daughter from a child molester by, ending him. And now, of course, he's being charged. We'll talk about that, as well as Jasmine Crockett. Jasmine Crockett calling President Donald Trump a piece of excrement. And it was recorded from a very unflattering angle. I do have to say that. The Paul Harrell program starts right now.
The Paul Harrell program.
All right, folks. As always, I'm joined by my co-hosts. I've got Rob Spencer is back with me. Rob, take it away, sir.
Paul, it is always an honor to be here, and anytime that we get to talk about Arkansas news that is relevant literally nationwide, because the stuff that we're going to talk about is stuff that we're dealing with here in the United States. And then, of course, when we get into the, I want to try to maybe not say so many negative words about Jasmine Crockett, but Jasmine Crockett plays to her constituency. She's fiction. Whatever,
yes.
Like what you see from her is not who she really is. She's just playing that role because, her constituency is 92% in poverty, right? Yeah. So they are 92% of her constituency is on welfare. And that's not to say anything negative about them, but she plays a role to speak to them.
Yeah.
Right. She's an educated congresswoman, right? At least from her schooling and all of that stuff. And unfortunately, I can't remember exactly where she went to college or what her degree level is. I just know that she's been educated. And you see these interviews with her, and she is 100% like, okay, wow, this person's, with it. She understands what's going on. She doesn't sound, like she's trying to placate a certain demographic. And then you see these interviews with her, and you're like, okay, she's playing a role.
Yeah,
she's playing a role. And so I don't really give any validity to what she says.
Well, I know you were saying you gotta, you don't want to get your shots in, or you don't want to be too unkind. But the thing is, if you're going to do that, you better hurry, because she's probably going to be redistricted out of Congress.
Yeah, going to be gone.
So
going to be gone, because I don't know that she's going to make it. Right?
Yeah, I don't either. I don't think so. So, all right. First of all, want to make sure everybody like the video you're watching on whatever platform you're watching it on. If you're watching on YouTube, feel free to subscribe. We would really appreciate it. We're trying to build that audience. We're broadcasting live right now on X American News. Follow that. Follow at Paul Talk Show on X, at Real Paul Harrell on X, Rob Spencer 43 as well. And don't forget, if you want a copy of Left Wing Will, become a paid subscriber. Go to paultalkshow.substack.com. Become a paid subscriber, and I'll send you one of these games that you see, the game that laughs at the left's expense. Let's get right into it, shall we? We have this story out of Arkansas. Fox News reporting federal judge blocks Arkansas 10 Commandments law in certain districts. Obama-appointed judge calls state law part of a coordinated strategy to inject Christian doctrine into schools.
Yeah, because it's never been here before.
That's
Christian
right.
doctrine didn't.
It's a brand new thing.
It didn't exist. Our founding fathers,
right?
They weren't Christians. Mm-hmm. None of that stuff was ever thought about when they were enacting the Declaration of Independence, when they were writing the Constitution. None of that stuff.
Yeah, we're supposed to believe it's a novel context. So I tweeted about this story earlier when I first saw it come out. And, this is my take on it. Look, I have, as I've gotten older, maybe this is because I became a father 8 years ago. As I've gotten older, I just reject the idea of secular neutrality. I understand the concept of it. I understand people want it to exist, but what I've realized is it really doesn't exist. You may call it neutral, but there's really no such thing as neutrality. I think you're either going to be Christian or you're going to be pagan. And I know that comes obviously from a Christian worldview, but I think everybody's going to worship something, right? And the idea that there's somehow And we got this, certainly we got this in the early 2000s, growing up in the 90s with the atheists, the idea that atheism isn't a worldview that can be, because it's science. It's not a worldview that can be pushed on somebody else. Sure. But Christianity and any other religion, but specifically Christianity, is a worldview that gets pushed on anyone else. So I reject that. And so I was a big fan of this law. I think it's great that the Ten Commandments go into school, mainly because our laws are based on the Ten Commandments. I mean, Rob, if you think about it, especially the second table of the law, right? And I can't take credit for this, but the late Phil Robinson explained this to me. You know, if you don't honor your father and mother, you're probably going to end up in trouble with the law at some point, and you're going to go in front of a judge. If you steal, which is number 6, you're going to end up in front of a judge. If you commit adultery, probably going to get a divorce. That happens a lot. You'll end up in front of a judge. If you kill, you're going to end up in front of a judge. If you lie, you can end up in front. Meaning we have laws that essentially are already based on these concepts. And we used to have laws in America honoring the 4th commandment. We had Sabbath laws. That's why in our state of Arkansas now you can't buy booze on a Sunday to this point. And so the idea that was somehow it was somehow a violation of the First Amendment. Was thought to be preposterous until the 50s.
It might be a little bit difficult for someone traveling from out of state to come through Arkansas and realize that the majority of the businesses are closed on Sunday. So you've got convenience stores, you've got Walmart, things of that nature, Dollar Generals, all of that. But for the most part, the majority of businesses are closed on Sunday. And that is baked in our belief in Christian beliefs. It is baked in honoring the Sabbath. And of course we can go on the argument about whether the Sabbath is the Saturday or the Sunday, but regardless, that's when we're talking about in terms of our country. Almost all of the founding fathers were Christians, and they, okay, I want to try to say this as politically correct as I can, right?
Okay.
Everything that they did was with an undertone of Christianity. You don't have to like it. You don't have to like it whatsoever. But everything that the founding fathers did when they were building this nation was done with the undertone of Christianity, because that's who they were. To your point, you can't separate who we are. So Joe Biden, when he talked about, my Catholic beliefs when I don't believe in abortion, because Catholics do not believe in abortion. But yet you have so many Catholics who identify as Democrat. And I just say, so you're saying your creator and your belief in your creator does not shape your worldview. I'm going to tell you something right now, friends. That's wrong. That's backwards. And you're going to have to answer for it one day. I'm not the judge. I'm not the person that's going to do that, because I got to answer for my own stuff.
That's right. Yeah, and that's a good point. This is not about our opinion on these matters. This is about God's opinion that you can clearly find in the Scriptures. But to your point on the Sabbath, this was before my time. But when I guess I was talking to somebody who remembered, and this might have been in a different part of Arkansas, but I think he's Gen X, and he was saying, when I was growing up, grocery stores were closed, except, you could buy food and water on Sunday and medicine. You could do that. But they literally would go and they would rope off everything else on a Sunday. So Mercy Ministry was okay. If you needed food, you needed water, that's available. But you're not going to buy a CD or a cassette tape, I guess, back in the day on a Sunday. It wasn't going to happen. So, but anyway, back to this story, just real quick, because Governor Sarah Huckabee Sanders has responded, saying in Arkansas, let me zoom in on this. She says, in Arkansas, we recognize basic truths like murder is wrong. The Ten Commandments are foundational to Western law and morality, and they should be displayed in public places. My administration will appeal this ruling and win. I certainly hope so, because the concept that you can't put. The Ten Commandments. It's also in it's on the Supreme Court as well. So it's just preposterous that this is the ruling, and I think it's a good thing. I'm a firm believer, because I believe in God. I think I want other people to believe in God as well, but specifically being exposed to the Ten Commandments, just having them posted. I don't think there's anything about teaching what they say. They're just to be posted. I think it could be a really good reminder to curb bad behavior of kids. And discipline in our schools right now, and particularly our public schools, is a big problem because it's gotten worse and worse in terms of people willing to actually make students pay consequences for their bad behavior. It was bad when I was growing up, and it's only gotten worse. So
when did we become so numb to the loss of human life? And I look at it, and of course here in the state of Arkansas, we talked about this last week when we talked about the school shooting at Westside, where 4 students and a teacher were killed by a 13-year-old and 11-year-old school shooter. To my knowledge, they're still the youngest school shooters.
Yeah.
I don't know that for sure. But we also know that they were one of the first. The next year, Columbine became the most talked about because of the mass destruction there. That I can't remember how many that these individuals killed, but it was in the teens, right? And so maybe it was because it was more publicized because they killed more people. I don't know, but the loss of life. I remember after Westside in 1998, and I was a senior in high school. And the next time that we were back in school, because I believe that it was in the springtime, and the next time we were back in school, we lined the hallways for a moment of prayer. And it was a student-led prayer.
Wow.
His name was Ryan, and I remember him leading that prayer. And he said something very, very impactful. He said, "We're going to be left with the question, dear God, how could you have let this happen?" And Paul, we're talking 1998, how many years ago was that? I don't know. But I can tell you, all of those years ago, that is word for word what Ryan said, among other things in his prayer. And we question that as Christians. We say, dear God, how could you have let this happen? But I tell myself, and I tell anyone around me, and I remember being a school teacher, and I was talking to a young lady named Skylar, and she was just having a rough go of it. And she just said, Mr. Spencer, I believe in God, and all these bad things keep happening to me. And I said, Skylar, these bad things keep happening because it's a constant reminder that now where we live on this earth is not our permanent home. And so when we are left with all this tragedy, we say, dear God, how could you have let this happen? We say, because this is not our permanent home. That's what we believe as Christians. That's where we are able to find solace. That is where we are able to find relief. And it's very, very challenging to do so. Now, going back to your original point, and I'll let you chime in here because I see it on your face. Going back to my original point here, when we look at what the 10 Commandments says, all of the things, like, can anybody argue with what is in the 10 Commandments? Can you say you shouldn't steal, you shouldn't lie, you shouldn't murder, you shouldn't commit adultery, right? Well, like, we understand that a marriage is a bond, it's a union. Right. And that is a covenant that you shouldn't break.
And it's good, and families are good.
Right.
And we need strong families.
Of
That's
course.
the bedrock of any civilization.
Yeah. Don't bear false witness against your neighbor. Don't, like, we could go through the entire 10 Commandments and say, is it bad? Is it bad that we're displaying that? You may disagree with the doctrine that it came from, but is it bad that we're displaying this as a reminder of what we should be trying to attain as a society?
Yeah, no, I agree. And I would also say, a couple of things like, the first table of law, is integral to really if you want the second table, which is really how we interact with each other, to work, you really got to get the first table right as well, right? Honor the Lord your God. Don't worship false gods. Mm-hmm. Don't use the Lord's name in vain. Honor the Sabbath.
Right, but those are Christian beliefs, right?
Right,
like those
100%.
Yeah. And so it's going to be really easy if for a person who is of, like a secular belief, or at least agnostic, or even worse, an atheist, they're going to read those things and we're like, well, I'm not reading the rest.
Yeah,
You know.
But it's very possible. But here's the deal. There's also another principle here. I want to talk about so much of what you just said, but there's also another principle here. This law was passed by Christians who were voted into office by other Christians. Correct. And so there's also a self-government aspect of this. And when you get back to the fundamental idea, if you go to the First Amendment, it clearly says Congress shall make no law establishing a religion. So even the argument that somehow putting the Ten Commandments is endorsing a religion, it doesn't say anything about Arkansas passing a law. And I know the courts have interpreted it differently, but it's just fundamentally off kilter when you think about blasphemy laws being on the books until 1930. Even anti-sodomy laws were on the books up until 2001. It was finally thrown out. So I think that's exactly right. But to your point about, how could the Lord let this happen? We also have to remember what Scripture says when it talks about working all things together, all things, even things that we don't understand, for our good. And so that can be a tough thing to swallow. Sure. Obviously, like if somebody had just gone through a terrible tragedy and they were asking that question, I might not bring that verse up right away, but maybe I would. But to your point about killing, and I think this is just a good transition here. I didn't plan on going here this early, but I got this wild hair. You were talking about how many people have died. My mind immediately went to abortion. I mean, the idea of how many people think abortion is okay, and the idea of looking at the Sixth Commandment, I think it is, don't kill, and learning that you're not supposed to do that. I had this wild hair for whatever reason. I can't remember how I got here, but I decided to ask Grok because I was just curious what the percentage of the black population in America would be had Roe versus Wade never made abortion legal.
1972,
1973.
Yeah.
So I said, currently the percentage of the U.S. black population. Here, let me throw this up on the screen. I said, currently the percentage of the U.S. black population is 13%. What would the percentage be if Roe v. Wade didn't legalize abortion nationwide? And so Grok, did a good job of trying to figure out. There's a lot of things to consider about it. That abortion rates and disparities, but it does say black women have historically had higher abortion rates than other racial groups. According to the Guttmacher Institute in 2019, black women accounted for 38% of abortions.
38%, even though they're 13% of the population.
Yes, while comprising of 13% female population, the abortion rate for black women was roughly 23.8% per 1,000 women aged 15 to 44.
Wait a minute. So it said that for every 1,000 pregnancies, 230 of them are terminated.
23.8 per 1,000.
So basically almost 240 of them, a quarter, let's call it a quarter, a fourth of all black pregnancies are terminated via abortion.
Correct. Compared to 11.7 for Hispanic women, 6% for white women. Okay. If Roe v. Wade was not legalized abortion, some pregnancies that ended in abortion would likely have resulted in live births, increasing the black population. Again, my question was, what would the population be had it never been legal? It's tough to tough to figure out because it says, look,
guessing.
some state it would have been left to the states. Some states would have continued to allow it, while others wouldn't have. It talks about socioeconomic factors, demographic trends, data limitations. Rough estimation pre-Roe context. Before 73, estimates suggest 100,000 to 800,000 illegal abortions occurred annually in the U.S. Post-Roe impact from 73 to 2020, roughly 50 million abortions occurred in the U.S.
Oh my gosh,
that's genocide, and it's even more if you count the babies those babies would have had over that 50-year period. Hypothetical increase. Suppose 50% of these abortions, 7.9 to 9.5 million, resulted in live births. This would increase the black population significantly. For simplicity, let's assume 8 million additional births over 50 years, averaging 160,000 per year, accounting for mortality, second-generation effects, and other factors. The black population might be 5 to 10 million larger today, million people larger. Percentage impact. Adding 5 to 10 million to the current $47 million black Americans yields 52 to 57 million, and a U.S. population of 345 million. This would make the black population 15 to 16.5% compared to 13% today. So
an additional 3 or 4%.
And for clarity, my follow-up question was, what was the percentage of the black population before Roe v. Wade? It was 11.1%. So it went from 11.1 to 13 in that time.
But it could have been almost 17%.
And that's assuming that it's only half. That's only saying half of the abortions would have been live births.
Yeah.
And I think it would have been more than that.
I don't know. Yeah, I feel like that's
you'd have some
really safe estimate.
Yeah, you'd have some miscarriages and things like that, that would affect it. But
I think it's reasonable to say that it could have been upwards of 20% of our population. A fifth could be African American. And you look at it and say, okay, well, how important, how much more important is let's just talk about the vote, right? Like politicians come out every 2 and 4 years. Like, if you've got a fifth of the population versus, realistically, what's 13? Like, I'm trying to figure out the math of it. What is that, a seventh? A seventh of the population? Not really sure what the math. Don't quote me on that.
You're asking the wrong guy a math question.
I failed math. But I'm just trying to say, like, we understand that is a much more significant voting block there. How much more power do you have?
Yeah.
How much more power do you have to affect change?
Right.
If you don't buy the lie that baby growing in your stomach, it doesn't have value.
Yep.
Just because it doesn't have value to you, there is a little thing called adoption. I have 3 children. All 3 of them were adopted from the state of Arkansas. I have the right to have an opinion on abortion. Not because I don't have a uterus, okay? I can't birth a child, regardless of whether some leftists try to say that as a man I can. But I can tell you this right now. I have the right to have an opinion on abortion because I thank God every day, every single day, that the belly moms, as we call them in our family, the belly moms of all 3 of my children didn't make a different choice.
That's right.
Okay? They gave their child. Now, some were taken. Some gave them up to adoption. I'm not going to go into specifics on all of this stuff right here, but I can tell you this. These children have life. They have air in their lungs, and they have value because their moms didn't make a different decision.
That's right.
Okay? They didn't devalue life, which goes all the way back to what I was trying to say about the 10 Commandments. When did we start devaluing life?
Yeah. And you could just look at America on the slippery slope, getting progressively sicker and sicker. And a key data point would be taking the Bible and prayer out of schools.
Yeah, 100%.
And people are realizing that, and that's why putting the 10 Commandments on a wall in the classroom is a step in the right direction.
So terrible.
It's really a glance in the right direction, literally a glance. But taking prayer out of school and removing this idea that God is real and we are not Him, it sets people up to be their own God.
Yeah,
and
there's a movie that talks about that, and it just says, "I've gone through all this, I've done all this training." I can't remember what the movie is, and it was just a great line. And he just said, "I've gotten to the end of this road, and I've learned that there are 2 incontrovertible truths: there is a God, and I'm not Him."
That's right. That's right. So anyway, Sarah Huckabee Sanders saying, "Look, we're going to challenge this law because it's right, and the 10 Commandments do in fact need to be in the classroom." Rob, you sent me a video about Aaron Spencer. For those of you who don't know, Aaron Spencer is the Arkansas man who courageously went after his daughter when he discovered that in the middle of the night his daughter was gone, and he suspected that the molester or pedophile that had already been caught
back up like a year before
grooming
that,
his
right?
daughter had come for her and manipulated her out of the house, or I'm not really sure the exact details. So he basically goes and finds him, and there's an altercation, and the dad shoots the molester dead, and now he's being charged.
Yeah, he's so there's, oh my gosh. Listen, I understand if you're not in Arkansas and you're watching us and you're just like, why should I care about this? I'm going to just tell you something right now. This is at the very core, the very definition of parental rights, liberal versus conservative, and you can try to say that politics play no role in this whatsoever. But when we go through this story, you're going to understand how politics come into play here. And I'll just give you a little bit of a backstory. So apparently last year, this is all alleged, this 60-something-year-old dude starts grooming Aaron Spencer's daughter, who was 14, 15 years old, somewhere around in there at the time, starts grooming her, saying all the right stuff. And I'm like, I can't imagine what a 60-something-year-old creeper could have said to a 14-year-old girl. But, you know, we don't know. Like, there's all kinds of trauma that people are going through in their heads, even if it's not actualized in life. There's all kinds of things that people are going through. So, like, whatever they're susceptible to, predators know how to find it and exploit it. And so this guy, again, allegedly, last year, starts grooming her, and he gets arrested for it. I don't know what all he did last year, but he gets arrested for it. The dude is out on bond, and
should have never been out on bond. That's also the politicizing of this as well.
Correct.
Because it just exposes the justice system is not doing their job.
Like, why? If you're a judge and you're looking at it like, okay, hey, 60-something-year-old dude, I'm not really sure why you're contacting this guy's 14-year-old daughter. Yeah. I have no idea. Like, potentially, you're a threat to not just this guy's daughter, to anybody else that you determine you put in your sights here, and all of that stuff. So he's out on parole or out on bond, and all of a sudden, one night, Aaron Spencer hears dog barking. We talked about this a couple weeks ago, but I just want to give you a little bit of an update on it. Here's dog barking. All of a sudden, he goes to his daughter's room. She's gone. He instantly knows this dude's out on bond. My daughter is missing. I'm going looking for him. So he's driving through this very small town at 1, 2 o'clock in the morning, like somewhere around in there. He's driving around this town, and he's looking for his daughter. You and I are both parents to daughters. We're fathers to daughters. We would have been doing the exact same thing. You are a Second Amendment advocate. So am I. We both have guns on us right now. Right. So we would have been looking for our daughters, and we would have been trying to get them to come home. We would have been trying to save them. He sees this guy, starts flashing his lights.
And just to be clear, he also called the cops.
He called the cops, yeah. He wasn't just out there as a vigilante. He did call the cops. My daughter's missing, all of that stuff. He's going out there looking for her. He finds them, flashes them, tries to get them to pull over. There's a little bit of a hubbub. I don't know what all went down, but dude pulls over. His daughter is trying to get out of the vehicle. I guess he's got the headlights shining on the back of this guy's truck. His daughter's trying to get out of the vehicle. This 66-something-year-old dude, perv, whatever, is yanking at the daughter, trying to keep her in the vehicle, all of that stuff. Again, this is all alleged, and what we have here is only Aaron Spencer's version. I'm not really sure what all the daughter said. Because, as I'm about to tell you, the other guy's not alive to tell us his story.
That's right.
Okay?
That's right.
Because he gets out, has something in his hand, allegedly. Aaron Spencer pulls his gun, shoots the guy, neutralizes the threat, grabs his daughter, saves her. Okay? What any father in the United States, or really I would hope worldwide, would do, right? Saves his daughter. The district attorney, the judges, all of this stuff, look at the evidence in this case, and unless there's some stuff that we just don't know about.
Which is possible.
Which is true. Which is why we keep using the word alleged. Do not sue us, okay? We're saying that we don't have all the information, but from what we've had here, 100%, it seems like a justified shooting. Now, he has been arrested and charged with murder, okay? Yep. Now, here's where it gets really, really crazy. The judge, Aaron Spencer's attorney, does a 17-page, argument as to why this needs to go to the public, right? because this judge had, after the guy's first arrest, had done a gag order.
Yep.
Okay. The judge immediately, 6 minutes after receiving the 17-page argument, orders the clerk to say, we're doing this gag order. Doesn't even read it.
Yep.
Does not even read what it is, and keeps him without bond. The perv got bond. Aaron Spencer, who was trying to save
incredible.
his daughter,
That is maddening.
did not get bond, which is so frustrating.
Yeah.
Okay. Then Aaron Spencer's attorney appeals this to the Supreme Court, which is where we have this story today. Aaron Spencer's attorney, I've watched the video. She argues masterfully because it's public, it's record. She goes up there and even argues the point that the judge's gag order is so broad that as the attorney arguing in front of the Supreme Court here with the or the appeals court, I can't remember if it's the Supreme Court or if it's just the appeals court.
No, it was the Supreme Court that ruled. Yeah.
Right. And so arguing in front of the Supreme Court, they are in violation of that judge's gag order. How ridiculous is that?
That's
you
incredible.
can't even this gag order is so broad that we can't even argue it in court. And the Supreme Court comes out and not only rules in Aaron Spencer's favor and immediately orders his bond to be set, goes and says, hey, this was totally wrong. This judge should never have done a gag order. You need to give this guy bond because he was only a threat to the guy who is now dead, okay? And so he's not a threat to the public unless there's somebody else grooming his daughter, right? And then here's the biggest key. This judge was so out of line that she needs to recuse herself and another judge needs to come in place.
Yes. So this is, I believe, from Associate Justice. So the Supreme Court rules against the gag order. Lifts the gag order. And then there's an Associate Justice by the name of Nicholas Brony. And Brony here has, let me throw him up on the screen so we can see it. Brony is Associate Justice for Position 6, Arkansas Supreme Court. He wrote a concurring opinion. And I've got it right here if you can see it. Here we go. Nicholas J. Brony, Justice concurring. Public officials aren't immune from public criticism, judges and prosecutors included. So let's full stop. So the judge and the prosecution, the idea is, why did you charge this guy? And so that's why this is self-preservation on their part. They don't want, they don't want to have to own, they don't have to face the public. They don't want to have to own what they've done. Okay, they're trying to do all this in secret.
Yeah, like they charge this guy and they have a gag order, meaning you can't even question our decisions.
That's right. Because the circuit court's gag order violates that principle, I join the majority's opinion granting the writ and vacating that order. But that sweeping order is only one part of a troubling pattern of attempts to shield this case from public view, beginning with a non-public arraignment and ending with a handwritten note sealing the entire case from public view. We cannot allow that pattern to continue unchecked. So I'd invoke this court's superintending authority and reassign this matter to a new circuit judge. And he cites court precedent. Anything less suggests that what's happened so far is within the acceptable range of disagreement or administration, and it isn't. Meaning, this gag order means you've got to recuse yourself.
Yeah.
It goes on. Begin with the gag order itself. On its face, the order targets a broad swath of people, barring them from expressing an opinion or making any comment about whether the evidence tends to establish the guilt or innocence of the defendant. Worse, the order itself was sealed, raising serious concerns about selective enforcement, and it doesn't explain why such an extreme remedy was warranted. Instead, just declaring it would help ensure all parties get a fair trial. That's not a good enough reason, they say. Nor did the circuit court explain why it extended the gag order beyond what even the state thought was appropriate, broadening it to cover the defendant's family and even more significantly sealing the entire case, meaning the defendant's family can't even talk about it. On the contrary, the circuit court entered that order 6 minutes after the clerk docketed, that's what you're saying, the defendant's 19-page opposition to the state's motion, or barely enough time to make a pot of coffee.
Okay, stop right there. So I said 17 pages, 19 page, which is worse. Have you ever heard you entered an order in a time that was barely enough time to make a pot of coffee? Have you ever heard a judge write something like that?
I mean, only a leftist would do this.
We've seen some scathing things, especially Amy Coney Barrett on the national level with the Supreme Court going after her.
Yeah.
Like, we've seen that.
Yeah.
But I don't. This is the most scathing rebuke
It
of
really is.
of a judge I've ever seen.
So let me see here. Let's see. I lost my place. 19 page. Okay. Pot of coffee. That approach cannot be squared with the First Amendment, and it underscores that the gag order wasn't a last resort, but an unconstitutional impulse.
Oh.
Context suggests why. The same circuit court that issued the gag order here also granted Michael Fossler's release on bail.
He's the deceased.
66-year-old
alleged perv.
Yeah, diddler. It's that decision, which the defendant's lawyers called a decision to release a predator who repeatedly violated the defendant's child on a low bond, that set off a chain of events that led to the fatal confrontation. That's the subject of this case. And it's that criticism that the state claimed and the circuit court effectively concluded justified gagging the defendant, his lawyers, and others. So it's political.
Wow.
This court
Exactly
made a
what I said.
political decision.
Yep. You let an alleged diddler, an alleged child.
I mean, he had this, he had a restraining order against him, and he was already
which did a lot of freaking good.
Yeah, and he was already released on bail. So I mean, come on, I know we have to say alleged, but come on.
Yeah. So I mean, all of this stuff. So this guy had a restraining order that literally did nothing. He did not protect that daughter.
That's right.
They did. Let's be honest. Like, if somebody's sitting here and saying, well, she's 14, she's 15, whatever, she's making her own decision. She's a child. She can't legally get a tattoo by herself. She can't even get a driver's license. I guess she could get a permit, a learner's permit.
Yeah.
She can't vote. She can't live on her own. She can't do anything. So you're trying to sit here and to say that this girl was making her own decisions. She was manipulated.
Oh, 100%.
She was vulnerable, and this guy seized on it. Yeah. I don't know what her culpability is in it, but I can tell you it's zero.
Yeah,
I don't care what she said or what she did.
Exactly,
it's zero.
Because
she's a child,
right? According to the law, 100%. It goes on here though. Let me see here. Let me throw this back up. Apologies for the delay. So they're trying to do this. This is a scathing opinion.
I've never seen something so brutal.
And that's the criticism that the state claimed, and the circuit court effectively concluded, justifying gagging the defendant, his lawyers, and others. The sequence raises serious concerns. Indeed, if openness enhances the appearance of fairness so essential to the public confidence in the system, then secrecy has the opposite effect.
Boom.
It erodes trust.
Boom. Right there. Honestly, like, you could sum the entire summary up into their thing is trying to create a fair trial. But if openness is bad, secrecy is not good.
Right.
It has the direct opposite effect.
Exactly. The effort to shield these proceedings from public view also didn't begin with a gag order. It started with the circuit court's decision to arraign the defendant away from public view, and even setting aside the potential constitutional concerns raised by a non-public arraignment. That decision highlights the order on review here isn't an isolated problem. More court precedents, and it talks about William Blackstone commentaries of the person by secretly hurrying him to jail where his sufferings are unknown or forgotten. I love this judge, by the way.
Yeah, this
is a less public and less striking and therefore a more dangerous engine of arbitrary government.
And this last paragraph right here, Paul.
Which one?
Ultimately, so I join the majority here.
So I join the majority's decision granting the writ and vacating the gag order, but I would go a step further. The repeated attempts to veil these proceedings in secrecy can only breed ignorance and distrust of the courts and suspicion concerning the competence and impartiality of the entire criminal justice system. He cites another court case. Remedying that danger warrants strong medicine, and I'd apply it. I mean, if it was up to Brony here, Justice Brony, there he is right there.
Remedy that last line, remedying that is strong medicine, and I would apply it.
That's right.
Like, he is saying, there's only one way to make this not stink.
Here, and this is what's frustrating. Like, this is not about justice What the court did here is not about justice. Like, if we need courage, man.
Yeah.
The generation ahead of us, we've got to teach our kids courage.
Yeah.
This is not courageous. This is about saving your skin because you released a guy that went on to kidnap a little girl, and then he got shot dead for it, and now you're going to blame the father. And here's the deal. If there's some other information that we don't know, if his story doesn't all of a sudden check out or whatever, you should be confident that the prosecutor's bringing the case. You should be confident that they got the evidence to convict.
But that's for trial.
That's for trial. This is America. This is how the system works. And guess what? If you're trying to shield public outrage and because you're afraid the jury pool might be taken, well, I'm sorry. Just that's tough. This is an outrageous thing. We've got pedophilia is an epidemic in this country right now, and more. And what they're also really aware of is more dads taking matters into their own hands, just like this. And that's also not an excuse to let the process play out and let's see what happens. It's
not what we want.
No.
Dads don't want to have to take it into their, like, you want to trust.
Of course not. But then at the same time, if somebody ever came after my daughter, it would. It'd
be the end
like,
of him.
Yeah, but it's also like I really, like, part of me, and I think every dad has this. Like, I wish that you would.
Yeah.
Like it would make me, nothing would make me happier than to do the job that I am here to do.
There's no sense in going through the trial. Let's save the state some money. Let's do all this. I'll take care of this for you. But that's not what our system is designed to do.
Correct.
And as much testosterone that speaks through this microphone and says, I agree with you, I wish someone would,
right,
kind of thing. That's not what our system is designed to do. And that's what this judge is trying to say here. It's like, you're trying to overprotect a system, but yet why in the world did you give this guy bond?
Yeah.
You gave him bond in the first place, which created this entire problem, and now you're trying to overcorrect. You're wrong.
Yeah, your problem.
You're wrong.
And so I agree with Brony here. The judge needs to recuse herself, needs to go somewhere else, needs to go to a totally different venue, a fair
let
judge.
This go. She has screwed the pooch so much, and we keep saying she, but I believe it is a female judge.
You know what? I will bet you, I don't know, I bet you $1 million it is. I bet you.
Which is sad,
I bet
right?
You all the money in the world it is, but yeah, I think it is.
Yeah, but what we know is that it's not a dad judge.
No, it's not.
A dad of daughters judge. Let's go a little bit more specific with it.
Yep.
And that's the unfortunate thing about it is like that it just goes back to what we almost started this hour talking about, is the loss of humanity here.
Yep.
We've lost the fact that this 14-year-old girl was victimized. And look at what's happening. Her dad is sitting in prison right now. Now, I would hope that once this decision has gone down, that he has been granted, bond and been able to get himself out of prison. But, think about that.
Yeah.
A diddler, a child predator was given the chance to sleep in his own bed that night. But a guy trying to save his daughter has been sleeping on a cold cot in the county jail.
Yeah. It's unforgivable.
How screwed up is that?
Yeah. It's absolutely. It's not justice. And the more they do this, I mean, the more we get, I fundamentally believe this type of stuff is on its way out, especially in Arkansas. But honestly, it's going to take time, and I don't know how old the judge is, and I hate to just blame. I don't want to blame everything on the boomers and that sort of thing, because I know that's what a lot of people like to do. But I firmly believe in our generation and the people coming up. I think we see the world fundamentally differently.
Yeah.
And I think we've seen the results of what happens when you're governed by men without any chests.
Yeah.
And not in weak people and people who are not courageous and people who have bought into this lie. And I think that even goes all the way to secular neutrality, the idea that the government, can't promote good things and condemn bad things and has to, do this juggling act where we have compassion for maps for minor attracted persons and let them out on bond. Give me a break, man.
Yeah. If you've ever used the term map as a in anything other than a condescending tone,
right.
If you've ever used it in any sort of positive context, you are the problem.
Yes.
Okay. You have no value. In my opinion, you have no value in society.
That's exactly right. Jasmine Crockett.
Oh my gosh.
She called President Trump a piece of excrement.
Well, we care so much about what she says.
But here's the deal. Well, let's just listen to her first. Let's listen to her first, and then I'll reserve my comments.
Yes, he is. But because the Supreme Court has paved the way for half the stuff that we see that's going on. Listen, Donald Trump is a piece of shit. Okay, we know that. Yes, he is. But in a functioning democracy, he still would not be able to get away with this. But he's been able to get away with this because the House Republicans are complicit. He's been able to get away with this because Senate Republicans are complicit. But most importantly, the courts, especially the Supreme Court, is complicit. And so I think one of the places that we have to start is we are absolutely, they are the highest court in the land, and they have no ethics guardrails. Now you go down to the lower courts and they do. How much sense does that make? When we know that they're taking money, we have the paper trail, and they refuse to put guardrails on themselves, so it's time for us to do it for them.
Okay. So, thoughts on that first.
Okay, so number one, that she says that the lower court, which is a singular person, has sense, but the 9-person panel, some of the most incredible minds, legal minds that we have in the United States. Okay, and I want to say some of those because you can just read old Ketanji, read her opinions on stuff.
The DEI hire.
Yeah, right. And you're like, when the rebuke of her is like, her argument has no basis in any legal argument ever. Yeah. And you're like, okay, well, that's pretty clear how they feel about it. But when she's trying to say that 9-person panel, regardless of whether you want to say they're conservatives and Democrats or whatever you want to call them, that 9-person panel doesn't know what they're doing. Okay, the highest court in the land doesn't know what they're doing. This random judge in Fresno, California, this random judge up here in Massachusetts, they're the one. They're the one.
They got some sense.
Yeah, they've got that sense. Now I'll tell you this one thing. She called Trump a Timu Hitler, and I kind of laughed at that one.
Okay,
I was like, that's pretty good. I won't give her that one. Yeah, that was pretty good. Like, I feel like she probably thought about that.
They're co-opting that though, because Hakeem Jeffries is Timu Obama. I'm pretty.
I hadn't heard that one.
Yeah, if you look at Hakeem Jeffries,
he did.
Yeah, Timu. Yeah.
This is well then.
He looked like Trayvon.
You're like, okay. So the Timu Hitler got me. I was like, because I had not heard that. If I would have heard the Timu Obama, I wouldn't have, I wouldn't have thought about it.
So what is she wearing, Rob? And we don't care about. If somebody wants to call me a chauvinist, that's fine. But this is insane. This is not acceptable attire for really any woman in public.
Yeah.
But let alone a congressman. She's wearing what appears to be a leotard with a suit jacket. And they got holes in the knees, and it's in the angle that this is shot. I don't know if it's coming across in the video that you're watching, but go watch it yourself. The angle that this is shot of, right up
there. It's not a great one.
It's just the most unflattering thing that you could possibly look at.
If anybody that's watched our show before here, like they've seen, like we're at different camera angles because you and I came in over the weekend and we're moving cameras around. But what was the thing is like we want to have flattering camera angles.
That's exactly right. Yep.
And whoever put on this event, and I asked her like, "Hey, we're going to put you right here on stage, whatever." Here you go. They did her no favors here.
No, man, they didn't. Like,
hey,
we need all up shots.
Here's what we want. We want an up crotch shot, and it would be really cool if you had holes in your knees.
Yeah,
there's like some suggestiveness with that.
And whatever you do, don't cross your legs.
Yeah, don't do that. And you've got your leotard on with the rolls. Like, I got rolls too, man, but that's why this camera is like the way it is. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm trying to make sure, whatever. But
that's great.
but like if you're somehow a liberal who happened upon this video, don't mistake our criticisms of this camera angle or the way that she's looking in it as an offset to just discount what we're saying. This woman is a fake. She is a phony. She has absolutely no real bone in her body.
Yeah.
Here.
Well, to your point about her being fake or being an actor, and her educational pedigree versus how she now talks. She's got different accents, and that's not the first. I mean, we saw.
Look at what we saw with Kamala Harris.
Yeah, you saw it with Kamala Harris.
I love you too.
Yeah. You saw it with Hillary Clinton. I don't feel no ways tired.
Yeah.
I've come too far. And then you saw it with Barack Obama, when he got into different crowds,
Oh, yeah.
he would get
really terrible about that.
So, I mean, this is just kind of a common thing where they feel like they have to,
It's placate.
Yeah.
That's what it is. I'm going to placate
it's
to this
totally
crowd.
insulting to the audience. Like, oh, well, they won't trust me if they don't think I'm exactly like them.
Sure.
They won't be able to actually understand the content of what I'm saying, so I've got to put it in the right context.
You better thank a union member for this. Yeah. You better thank a union member for that.
I remember that. Oh, my goodness.
You fake-ass woman.
Yeah, that was terrible.
And she's back, by the way. She's making her rounds here after
she's got a book.
She got a book coming out. Megyn Kelly, who is my favorite to watch, she did a thing where she was talking about, like, she's like, Kamala Harris is not real, whatever, but she's teasing her book, and she's telling a story about how she had a birthday during October, and it was leading up to the election. And she's like, and Doug, I'm going to say he forgot. And it was Jimmy Kimmel, or it was Colbert. It was Colbert, yeah. Well, what happened? You'll have to buy the book. We don't give a damn whether your husband got you a present or not, man. Like, who gets?
I gotta go get the book immediately.
Oh my gosh, I'm getting that book, Paul.
Yeah.
I'm getting it because
did you hear he forgot her birthday?
I can't believe Doug. I can't believe you, Doug.
Oh my goodness.
Mamala was working hard, Doug.
So I've got a couple of stories here. That I don't really know. Here, let me run down them, and I'm going to land because I think you want to talk redistricting and
I want to talk about the ridiculous hypocrisy of it.
All right.
Yeah.
So, but before we do that, let's go into this real quick. House Oversight Committee has subpoenaed the DOJ for the Epstein files.
Okay.
But they are wanting all communications regarding Epstein under the Biden administration. So not just the files. They want to know who has even mentioned the word Epstein in their communications. President Trump has been saying they planted things in the files. If they are demanding communications, there's a very high chance there is incriminating evidence with those communications. And while at the same time they've done that, the House Oversight Committee has also issued subpoenas for Hillary Clinton, Bill Clinton, Merrick Garland, James Comey, William Barr, Alberto Gonzales, Jeff Sessions, Robert Mueller, Loretta Lynch, and Eric Holder. And what can only be, you can only assume this is about Epstein. They want to know what they knew and when they knew it. Will Hillary Clinton show up? Will she defy the subpoena? If she does show up, will she take the fifth? The same question goes for all of them. Clinton, Garland, Comey, Barr, Alberto Gonzales, Jeff Sessions. Project Veritas has a very disturbing story, and I don't know how true it is, but they've got a very disturbing story right now about William Barr being involved in a $1 billion visa scheme with fake companies to bring in billionaires. It's crazy.
Yeah.
We'll have to get into it at a later date. But it's a big. What's going on right now is very interesting concerning Epstein, as well as all of the stuff that's going on right now with the grand jury being assembled for the Russiagate collusion hoax. So that brings us to Texas and redistricting. The latest on it is that Attorney General Ken Paxton is now moving forward, going to go before a judge and ask for all of these Democrats to be removed from office because they have left the state. Yeah,
so it started with I guess it was yesterday, that Greg Abbott was threatening them with arrest. Because after they did this in 2021, they enacted a law that said that if you're not showing up for these, like these are criminal offenses because you are hired to do a job. But also Greg Abbott brought up an interesting tidbit here. He's just said, so if I pay you for a vote, if I pay you to vote a certain way, that is obviously bribery.
Yes.
But if I pay you not to vote, that is also bribery. Okay. And there was an organization that paid, if you want to believe the accounts here, upwards of $600,000 to fly these politicians out of state. Okay. Flew them to New York. Kathy Hochul was even brave, like talking about, hey, we welcome them and all that stuff.
So they've accepted bribes, essentially.
Yeah. So they've accepted a bribe because what you had there was all of these people were paid to not vote. How is that not a bribe? It 100% is in any rational person's mind.
Yeah.
So, so Greg Abbott was going to issue arrest warrants. They're going a step further. Let's remove them from office because they are not doing this.
And, it'll go before a judge and, regardless, some precedent needs to be established. This idea that just because Texas is a red state, and don't get me wrong, the Texas GOP really sucks sometimes, and they're controlled by really bad people sometimes.
I've seen them do some ridiculous stuff. Yeah.
But in this instance, we're not just talking about Congress. We're talking about electoral college votes, potentially too.
Yeah.
Because that's what your state's total number delegation. Anyway, I guess the electoral college actually wouldn't change. That would only change every 10 years with the reapportionment. But anyway, so it is about Congress. So. This is the new proposed map. I mean, for the most part, all of the red districts look pretty. I mean, I know there's some weird shapes on there, but it's pretty uniform.
Yeah.
But for them to be outraged at this, Rob,
and not be
outraged. This is the state of Illinois.
Okay.
Look at that.
Hey, Fat A, Prickster. I'm gonna call him Prickster. Pritzker over there in Illinois. You stupid, ridiculous man. Okay, he's a billionaire. He could give two craps what we think. Okay. How dare you go to the podium yesterday?
He did.
Oh, he went to of all people.
Is this the governor of Illinois?
It's the governor, and potential 2028 Democratic presidential candidate. Okay, Pritzker. His family is the Hyatt people. He's a billionaire. Okay. This piece of excrement, I'm going to go ahead and use Jasmine Crockett's word here that you've churched down for us for the show. Right?
I like synonyms.
There you go.
Yesterday, this synonym was sex toy instead of the other one for the WNBA. Right.
So Pritzker comes on and he's giving a press conference. He's talking about, this is terrible. This won't be unchecked. Okay. Tell me that any of that Illinois map that you're seeing on the screen makes any sort of rational sense when you look at that blue line that's just going up through there and cutting through these populated areas so that they can get an extra person in Congress. That's what they care about. They're discounting.
You got East St. Louis, and then you got is that Decatur? And then
Decatur.
That goes over into. I can't read that town, but it's a big population area, and then that's Brookington or Bloomington.
Bloomington. Yeah. So that's the so these are going to be farmlands. These are going to be a lot of conservatives in these areas, right? And then what you've done here is that you've cut a line through here so that you can get on the I should clarify, the outskirts of that are the farmlands. You've cut these lines through here so that you can get extra members. And when you look at it, and I even saw this today, I think there's the number of people in Congress in the state of California is 54.
Yeah,
somewhere around
right.
in there.
Whatever the it would be whatever the electoral count is -2.
Okay, so what they're going to do there is they're going to try to redistrict. Gavin Newsom's already come out and said this. They're going to try to redistrict to counteract what Texas has done, right? They're going to make sure that they get those seats back. But here's what it already is. It's something like 45-9. Okay, there's only 9 conservative or Republican members in the state of California. Okay, that's a 60-40 state. Everybody thinks of California as a guaranteed blue state. It's a 60-40 state. Do you know what his new proposition is going to do?
No.
It's going to cut it down from 9 to 3.
Wow.
So a 60-40 state, so that 40% of your state is only going to be represented by 3 members of Congress, when the 60% is going to be closer to 50. Do you have any hill to stand on with Texas? You got nothing. You're a fake. You're a phony. All of these Republican governors these Democratic governors who are coming out, Kathy Hochul, Gavin Newsom, and Pritzker, all of these people are coming out, and they are what's the word? They're casting
virtue signaling.
Virtue signaling. Thank you. They're throwing this virtue signaling out there and trying to say, "Oh, how dare these conservatives do this stuff?" Look at their states. They are hypocrites, and we're not buying it anymore.
100%. And then just to kind of reiterate, if you look at Florida, I mean, this was Florida's old map, and now this is their new map. Now, you tell me. I mean, look at this district up here in the Panhandle. You know, I mean, this one is much more realistic. This is the new one. It's much more equitable.
Have you ever been to the Panhandle?
Oh,
That's
yeah.
where we vacation.
That's exactly right.
Right? That's Destin, Florida.
It's one of the best places on earth.
That's right. The Panhandle of Florida is where all of us...
And they're good folks.
They're good folks up there. They are conservatives. Okay? Let's just be honest.
Yeah,
they're
they
conservatives up there.
It's that nice.
When you have the bluer areas or when you get a little further southern in that state.
You know why they're conservatives? One of the reasons why is because the deer population, believe it or not, in the Panhandle of Texas is crazy.
Yeah, because you don't think about that.
It
you
is
don't think
insane.
When you think about deer hunting, you think of the state of Arkansas.
Yeah, or
right?
or even rural. I don't know. I think Iowa. Iowa's got a bunch of big bucks. Kansas has got big bucks.
Montana.
But I will tell you this: we used to go to the beach. Back when I was on radio, we would go every year, and I would get off work at 6 p.m. and we would get in the car. We would drive all night. We would get to the beach, and then we would stay up and watch the sunrise, and then go to bed. And then the next day, the vacation started. Right. It was awesome. I loved driving at night, or at least I used to.
Sure.
And
traffic was better.
The traffic's better and everything else. You hit that Mobile, you can actually go through the tunnel. If you hit Mobile at midnight, you're going to just cruise right through the tunnel.
Cruising. Yeah.
So the point is, I've seen more deer. The most deer I've ever seen in my life are on those drives, because you're getting into the outskirts of the Panhandle. Yeah. I don't know, about 1:30, 2 in the morning. And there are so many deer on the toll roads. I probably saw 200 deer.
Right.
I mean, and it got to the point where there's nobody on the road.
Yeah.
So in order to see more deer, because I know they're there. That's how many. I'm talking. They're just lined up on the highway. I would swerve in the left lane and then go back in the right lane, so I would get a little bit more headlights into the grass just for a moment to see them.
To say it.
Oh man, it's incredible.
Well,
to my point, I think the more deer you have, the more conservative you probably are.
Well, because news alert, most deer hunters are conservatives.
Now that may not apply in like Oregon or Washington, but again, that's kind of the same thing. Like the rural areas have the. I have family that celebrated the 4th of July in Washington State, in rural Washington State. The good old boys up there were blowing up propane tanks to celebrate the 4th of July. And they were not lefties.
That was incredible.
But so anyway,
interesting.
All right, I guess that's all the time that we have.
Yeah, we're over.
Rob. I'm sorry. You wanted to say something, though. Did I miss? I interrupted
No,
you.
we'll save it for tomorrow.
All right,
that'd
man.
be totally fine.
All right, so tomorrow, Rob and I will be back here. We'll be talking whatever else in the news.
The news of the day.
We'll see. Don't forget, like us or follow us on Twitter at Real Paul Harrell, at Paul Talk Show, at Rob Spencer 43. Also, if you want to subscribe and become a paid subscriber to help us stay on the air and do what we do, go to paultalkshow.substack.com, and if you become a paid subscriber, I'll send you a copy of The Game That Laughs at the Left's Expense, Left Wing Will, and The Red Pill. Until tomorrow, be safe, and we'll see you at noon for Millstone Report.